network or any of that stuff, I would just stick to the title of the show because in the public domain,
Right.
we could show clips of it on your show and there's nothing they could do about it. It's on the air. You can film it. It's just like they could use any of our names in any article that's ever been written about us on Google.
Exactly. And the fact that you were on it, we'll just refer to The Last Gangster, that you did commentary on it recently, and then we're going to talk about it. And I think laying out the groundwork that a lot of it was left out. No, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, the point that I was told and I was trying to get across, they never gave. It was never brought out. I never got the opportunity to. They never filmed the parts that I was trying to get out of that interview. You know what I mean? So they just, they hit me with like a couple of one-liners, sentences that I got out, but there was a lot more that I said that pertained to a lot of significant things. How does it was a lot to do with how people, how organized crime started.
That's one of the big points that you told me about in the interview that they didn't show, and I think that's very important.
How did all of this start? And isn't it childish or whatever? They thought it was childish. And I said, listen, in 1931, through the early, 1900s, the Italians were coming into the United States the legal way through Ellis Island, and they were discriminated against in all walks of life at that time. And in Sicily, where these people came from, or different parts of Italy, there was a certain way of, where you would take care of your own. And they kind of, I'm not justifying it, but they took care of their own and they started their own organization and they made money a certain way, be able to support their families. And the only way to do away with the discrimination and where, they had to become feared. So Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky are the ones that really put that whole thing together with all the rules and, the different families. I think there were a total of 23 families in the country. But in New York, were the most powerful, there were 5. And there was a ruling commission, where they sat on. So you couldn't break, you had to abide by the rules. It had to be sanctioned by a commission, if it was something very serious. And if it wasn't, it had to at least be sanctioned by the boss of that particular family, which they go against all the time.
Absolutely. You know what else too, Tommy? I think we should discuss the personal nature of growing up around, because you and I are about the same age. We're very close in age. And we really, my family's third generation. I'm third generation. So there was my parents and my grandparents that were here before me, obviously. So I'm third generation. But what I saw as a kid growing up on Avenue U was really, really intriguing. And you could get sucked into it so easily because every big time gangster that was around the area was driving a brand new car. They were dressed to the nines. They always had fancy clothes on, jewelry. I mean, they had this allure. They had respect. I mean, I'll bring up a name, Angelo Defenders, may he rest in peace. When he walked around on Avenue U.
There's good bad guys and there's bad guys. Angelo happened to be a good bad guy.
Yes.
But listen, guys, one of the things is we could get too carried away. This shit could be a 6-hour series. We got to really fucking focus on what we.
So the first 45 minutes, you want to just go through the before Sammy cooperated. You want to go through the Castellano murder.
Yeah, because if we go all the way back into the history, I'm telling you, this could be a 6-hour series. We can't do that. We want to do just 2 fucking very focused 45 minutes. And Tommy, I can tell from what you are saying, and we don't even have Michael Vecchione here. We can fucking go through 45 minutes, and it'll be like boom. You know what I mean?
And what do you want to do the second 45 minutes?
The second 45 minutes will be the cooperation and how it brought down the mob.
Yeah. Okay. But I think we should definitely send a message. And guys like Tommy and I that were right there and could have went towards that life, and we didn't. We made the right turn instead of the left. And Tom, I know your history, you know mine. It was very easily to get sucked into that life. And I think that at some point, maybe at the end of the second episode.
That's what I was going to say. The end of the second episode, we should
send that message out because.
First episode, in conclusion, the first episode, so stick to the Castellano murder. The second episode, you could stick to what Sammy's contribution to all not just Sammy, but Sammy.
Everybody.
All the cooperating witnesses that the government cooperated, where people don't just understand and like, they're always complaining about it. It's a means to an end, and it's an investigative tool. That's a necessary investigative tool. And like I said, I think on the show numerous times, if there was a Joe Pistone in every family, you would need to cooperate anybody, but there's not.
I just want to put something up on the screen, and you guys tell me if this is okay. There's the flyer. Is that there's anything you want changed in this flyer for the show?
Looks good.
It looks
Okay.
excellent.
But what we're talking about too is we're talking about this as from a police perspective. So we're giving our police, even though Tommy, you and Michael Vecchione are the experts, we're giving a police perspective on, La Cosa Nostra and what happened, and going into the Paul Castellano hit, and then what happened after that. But from a police perspective, all right? Here's Frankie DeChico.
Yep.
That's him. That's him, right?
Yep.
Okay. And here's Angelo Ruggiero. All right. I just want to make sure. I'm going to have a bunch of these pictures up on the screen.
Something, Tommy, it was one of the feedback that I got in general from people that watched the last Gangster thing. Was that, Sammy gets to portray himself as this, hero, that he outsmarted Gotti. And I think we should really get into that a little bit. And, obviously Gotti doesn't get to respond, or, somebody from his side doesn't get to respond, his son. But, the bottom line is that he was obviously a tough guy. He was a gangster, true and true. He never cooperated. He took it to the last breath. But how really intelligent was he?
Well, I say that all the time. He was a bona fide tough guy. He took everything on the chin. You never saw him rattled at any of the trials, not nervous about anything. But as far as him being a mob boss, he really destroyed organized crime, not just the Gambino family, because a lot of these people had information on other families. You know what I'm saying? So he hurt organized crime in New York in general, by his flamboyancy. And like Sammy said, like everybody will say, it's supposed to be a secret society, and he didn't care that, he was on the cover of Time magazine,
Right. There's a lesson with Don Carlo and, Joe Colombo, where in the 70s, where he was too flamboyant, he was out there with the Italian American Civil Rights League. And it was obvious it was obvious that Don Carlo gave the nod or looked away or whatever while
the first time they let him do it. The second time they thought he was just going a little too far and told him not to do it. He still did it.
Right.
He was paying a lot of attention to a lot of people. And, it got him shot.
Actually, John Gotti probably didn't get that memo that you're not supposed to be on the cover of Time magazine. I mean, Joe Colombo.
He knew what he was doing. He just really believed that he'd keep getting away with it because, as Sammy said, they were just buying the jurors. It's not like he beat him fair and square.
Right.
He was beating them, dirty.
But
you know what I would also like to touch upon is the fact that because of what you just said, Tommy, they pissed off the feds.
Well,
listen, the feds played dirty.
Listen, he put a crosshair on himself. You had President Ronald Reagan talking about, getting rid of organized crime in press conferences. So when you got the President of the United States talking about people in New York, you know what I'm saying? And a guy like Ronald Reagan, who I adore, you're not getting away with it. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to get away with it. They're going to use all their resources and all their money to nail you sooner or later.
And that's a hell of a powerhouse, their resources, money, attorneys, and on and on and on.
But, Tommy, I also want to touch upon the fact that what other law enforcement organization could, like a priest, say, I absolve you of all your 19 murders because we're going to go after who we think is more important.
Listen, if you really want to get technical and you read, I don't want to sound like I don't want to come off like a holy roller, but if you really read things in the Bible, God does forgive murder. He does forgive murder. And, it says it. You know, God does forgive murder.
You have
So
to ask for absolution. You have to
you know,
ask for
you have
forgiveness,
to
and
you have to
it's granted.
you got to believe in Jesus, and you know you have to believe in a lot of things that the scriptures say, and if you do, God will forgive you for murder. You
Well, you
know,
have to confess to a priest or
yes,
someone
and you
in
have
yeah,
to, like you said, absolution,
right.
redemption.
Yeah.
So God, if God could forgive for murder, the government's not forgiving you. You're not getting a walk away. You can't vote no more. You can't go get a gun permit. You can't get a job, like unless you have money to start a business. So
Right, but Tommy, I want to touch upon the people left behind, which we briefly touched on before, is that they greatly object to the fact that their father was whacked by this guy who's
that's
now
all well and
free.
good, but like you know what, Sammy, says if you're involved in that life, they're taking an oath. Okay, the oath to me is like fucking a Boy Scout fucking thing. It's stupidity, but in their world, it's a very serious thing, and they believe in that oath, and they're willingly taking that oath to the point where if your son is dying on a table and someone calls you, you got to leave. That's what they're telling you, which
Right.
to me is, I don't give a fuck who's calling me. That's God forbid.
Tommy, let me just to get focused. Let me just ask. All this stuff is gold, and I know the 45 minutes is going to fly by. What is the best things for Michael Vecchione to talk about?
How Mike's cooperated a lot of guys on a state level. You know what I'm saying? Why he would
He could
cooperate
probably
with
speak
guys.
to what you were just talking about too, Bill. The fact that, there's a balance. You have to make a deal with a guy that's a bad guy, killed people and stuff
Listen,
like that. But to get
Vecchione's
to the
gonna
end.
tell you. You know what Vecchione's word's going to be? Who's always told me in the letter, I'm not going to get the information I need from a priest.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if
Tommy, that's fucking gold. That's
So
gold.
if
What
you
you
want
just
to
said.
know something,
Yeah.
if you want to know something, you need cooperators. You need informants. The military has informants in other countries working on their side. How do you
Right.
get the intel in Afghanistan and Iraq? They're paying people that aren't angels, but that are less of the two evils. And they're
Counterintelligence.
going to get the military to the finish line at some point. So we've been paying informants, internationally, nationally, whether it's New York organized crime, traditional, non-traditional, or whether it's an enemy of ours in another country. You have informants. You have people whispering to you. You have people in terrorist cells that are talking to the CIA, to NSA, to the Mossad. Come on, you know what I mean? This has been going on forever. They act like this is the only thing that's ever happened. When Lucky Luciano was in jail, Dewey gave him I don't know how many years, 40 years for prostitution, whatever it was. Lansky cut a deal with the government for Lansky for Lucky Luciano to use his influence on the piers, on what was going on the piers as far as things that were being brought in with Nazi groups, the layout in Sicily of the shores for when they hit Italy. And his payoff was, okay, you're a free man, but you're getting deported to Sicily. You know what I'm saying? So they made a deal with the guy who created
And that's going back 70 years or something.
That's in the 1940s. So early 1940s. So you made a deal with the guy who was the godfather who created, instrumentally created traditional organized crime. They made a deal with him then. And I don't disagree with what they did.
No, I mean, I don't disagree with it either. Tommy, real quick, there was one point in the episode that was just added, and it's been added many times, where Sammy says that God referred to his public. You believe that's true?
Yes. Yes, 100%.
I mean, so right there, even though he knew what the consequences could be, he didn't care. He made a horrible mistake, obviously.
Listen, in front of the Bergen Hunt Fish Club, listen, the guy's walking around with $3,000 suits on. But he works for Arc Plumbing. He's never been there. You know what I'm saying? Come on, let's be honest.
He doesn't know what the inside of the place looks like.
You know what I'm saying? Look at the fireworks shows he throws. How much money does that cost? And I blame the New York City Police Department for not walking in there and shutting it the fuck down. They did a standoff. They went there. I saw it on television. They went there to shut that fucking thing down. And if you're going to go there and threaten something, you do it.
Right.
They
You got to
went
follow
there
through.
and they threatened it and they didn't do it. They looked like fools.
They were
should
shooting it
shut
off the
that
roof
down.
while the cops were downstairs on the
How
street.
much money you see? We love John hats. I mean, look at the outfit he's wearing. You know what I'm saying? Like he works for Arc Plumbing. You know what I'm trying to say? Where does he afford Bruce Cutler?
Where does he keep the monkey wrench in that suit?
You know what I mean? The guy don't leave his house till 11, 12 o'clock every day. They got him on video. There's reporters in front of there forever. And he don't come home till 3, 4 in the morning because he's out in regimes partying all night.
Tommy, what other pictures should I have in the who else's picture?
You got Frankie DeChico, you got Paul. I would put Eddie Leno.
Eddie Leno's an easy one to pull up, Bill.
And what is the significance of Eddie Leno?
He was one of the shooters.
I would put in
Waverly?
Jimmy Brown Fiella, who was at that meeting. Who knew
Joe
about
Waverly?
What?
Joe Waverly?
No, he has nothing to do with that.
Not Joe Waverly. One of the backup shooters. The guy with the same chin as me.
You had, you know what? There was a guy with Joe. There was Joe Watts.
Joe Watts. That's what I'm talking about. I'm sorry.
Joe Watts.
Joe Watts.
And there was a guy that was with Joe Watts who was one of the shooters, and I forget his name. That was one of Joe Watts' right-hand men. Gene Gotti, I would put in.
There's Gene Gotti and Eddie Leno.
That's Gene Gotti. I mean, they were all part of it.
Is that Eddie Leno?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So you want me to put Gene Gotti too?
No. Gene Gotti's the first picture. The guy on the left is Eddie Leno.
Yeah,
oh, okay. And now, how about the guy Watts?
Joe Watts.
Joe Watts up there. They all had something to do with everything. You know what I mean?
Wasn't Joe Watts a backup shooter, Tom?
I think Joe Watts may have been one of the shooters, or he's definitely on the street.
He's on the scene for sure. He's definitely on the scene because Sammy talked
I know
about
Eddie
that.
Leno definitely was one of the shooters.
He was one of the shooters, and I think Watts was a backup shooter. He was definitely on the block.
There was a guy who was with Joe Watts, around Joe Watts, that was one of the shooters too. I forget his name.
Yeah, he's got like a funny name. I know who you're talking about.
That's him?
That's him.
Okay. Now I'd like to get a picture of what the shooters were wearing because they had
Russian hats,
hats. And they had beige trench coats, Tom?
Beige trench coats and the furry hats. Those were
that was actually a pretty ingenious
very ingenious as far as identification purposes went.
Yeah. So confusing.
Well,
everybody had the same.
If you notice the reporter on that they show on live on The Last Gangster, he says, and the 3 shooters ran into a car. There were 4 shooters.
Yeah.
There were 2 on each side.
Well, that's when things are very liquid. There's probably not a lot of
I'm
information.
just trying to say, like, somebody told him there were 3 shooters.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we know better that there was actually 8. There was 4 and 4. So.
Yep. I think there were a total of there were 4 shooters, and I may have made a mistake. I think there's a total of 11 people on the street, including Gotti and Sammy.
Right. And they all had guns. That's
Jimmy
really 11 shooters.
Jimmy Brown, Fiella, Frankie DeChico, and one other guy was at that meeting who set that meeting up. And that was just in case something went wrong, they'd be there. But then they all just walk out of the restaurant when they know the shooting happens.
You know what I'd also like?
They don't know what was going on.
Say again?
I'd like to dispel the whole thing where they like call that they're fucking soldiers, and they only kill other wise guys. And do you really believe?
Some don't. Like a guy like Gas Pipe Queso, a guy like Tommy Karate, a guy like Greg Scarpa Jr. They killed women, they killed children.
Roy DeMeo.
Roy DeMeo. They didn't give a fuck who they killed. Joey Testa, Anthony Santa. They were animals. But Sammy only killed wise guys. In a whole, there were a lot of guys. Billy Catullo, as far as I know, only killed wise guys. Guys in the life.
Right.
You know what I mean? But they also use excuses to kill people, even though those aren't the real reasons. Their reasons would be justified. And I give a perfect example. Frank Lastarino, who's still alive, wanted to kill Patty Tester in the worst way. But when Vic Musso was out and he was the boss, he liked Patty Testa, but he had a personal vengeance against Patty Testa, whatever it was. And Musso said no. As soon as Musso was in jail, Queso was, acting at that time. He was the guy on the street, and Queso said, "Do what the fuck you want." He didn't give a fuck why.
You know what, Tommy? When we talk about innocent people, how about the kid, the neighbor in John Gotti's block that accidentally ran over the son? Huh?
John Favara.
Yeah, I mean, that guy was innocent. Come on. And didn't Gotti give the nod to that?
He went to Florida 100%. He left to Florida when they killed him.
And supposedly he said he couldn't listen to his wife cry anymore about the son. And I get it. That's a horrible thing.
I mean, that's a rumor that went around. I don't know what happened in their household, but he took a trip. He didn't like to fly in airplanes, Gotti. So he took a car ride to Florida so he'd have an alibi that's gas pipe when they killed him.
Should I have his picture up too?
You could show gas pipe.
How about, let me ask is there any FBI guys that you want in or no?
Put on Chicorgo and Spiro holding Sammy.
How do you spell that?
Matt Chicorgo, Tricorco, and Frank Spiro. FBI. They
showed a picture of them.
They showed them on the show.
Yeah.
I would say those two guys did all the grunt work, all the filming for 3 years of their life, identifying people, and they identified 125 people because of what Gotti did.
Calling those meetings every week.
Yep. And that's verbatim out of their mouth. Free for me to say.
I don't know if I have the right picture, but I'll put it up and you tell me. Let's see.
Those are two really good guys, Matty and Frankie. I met them at your recent party.
No,
that's not them.
It's the arrest photo. All you need is to find the arrest imaging when Sammy's standing outside of 26 Federal Plaza with the white T-shirt and the black leather jacket on. The two agents holding him. That's Frank Spiro, Manager Corporal.
That's the agent in the middle that was on the show, right?
No, that's not him.
That's not George Gabriel?
Nope.
I wonder who that is.
Let me see if I could find it.
I mean, it's a very popular picture.
Yeah, that picture's been around. It's I know the one you're talking about. He's got the white T-shirt on, the black leather jacket,
dungarees and white sneakers.
It was the walkout of the day that they arrested him and Gotti. No,
right in front of 26 Federal Plaza when they get out of the car.
Yeah, that was.
I'll have to look for it. It's not coming up right here. I mean, there's another picture that's pretty damn cool. I don't know. Let me just show it to you. Let's see what this. This picture here is nothing, right?
No, I don't even know who they are.
Yeah, that's gas pipe.
All right, let me.
You notice Paul has the black see-through socks on.
Yeah. I don't mean to laugh, but that was like signature.
Who's that?
I have no fucking clue.
That's Sammy in the middle, I think, right?
It looks like Sammy.
But I don't know who's with him.
Those are gangsters, I think. No? Oh, maybe not.
All right, let me just go through some of the pictures I have, and I'll have to add some. Frankie DeChico, Angelo Ruggiero.
Yep.
Gotti, of course. Frank Bellotti.
Tommy Bellotti.
Tommy Bellotti, and he's the driver for Paul.
Yep, he's the underboss.
And here's Gotti again, Paul Castellano.
That's Jimmy LaRosa, the attorney, next to him.
Here's another fucking Gotti.
Jackie the Nose, Peter Gotti, and Gotti.
That's when Sammy is testifying.
That's the congressional hearing.
Gene Gotti and
Eddie Leno.
And Gene Gotti.
Joe Watts.
Vicious motherfucker, Joe Watts. Mike Vecchione.
He flew under the radar a little bit, Tommy. No, Watts.
Nah.
He was out there, yeah.
Oh yeah. Fucking gas pipe.
All right, that's do we need gas pipe or no?
If you want to bring him in there, you could, because he was a big part of the conspiracy with killing Frankie DeChico, you know?
Yeah.
There's no reason to have what's his name? Our friend from Florida.
Mazza?
Yeah.
No.
No,
No.
he's not part of that.
I wouldn't even
Okay.
give him time of day.
All right, you know, I don't want, look, there's so much we could talk about, but I'd like to keep it focused. We'll start out.
Focus on the Castellano murder, why it happened, how it happened.
Yeah, and we could do the first 45 all on that.
And then the second one, you could do
Cooperation and everything forward.
cooperating witnesses.
Yeah. And I should I'm going to hit, we're at almost 26 minutes. I'm going to end recording it. We won't end the
Think about what I'm saying. We've been using informants internationally, nationally, forever. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
think about it. Like, we've used it to our advantage, and it's a part of, you know, it's part of the whole system of, you know, if it's a greater picture to take down, you know, what you're using them for. You're
Right.
using an informant, it's a cell in a fucking terrorist group. Obviously, you're going to get 50 cells because of this one cell. You know what I'm trying to say? So come on, it's a no-brainer. And as Vecchione said, and he'll say it. Mark my words. That's what he'll say. I'm not going to get information on what I need, on what's going on with this case from a priest.
Right.
Good point. And listen, sometimes people feel that the ends don't justify the means, but you got to do something.
And those people were never cops, and those people don't understand what you're going for. Because if you're locked, Sammy's responsible for, I think, 38 major players being arrested and information on a bunch more. So if he don't cooperate, even if those 38 people did one murder each, again, that's 38 lives he saved. You know what I'm saying?
I guess that's one way to look at it.
What if I asked you, right to you, Tommy? I said, so Tommy Dades, Detective Dades, what do you say to the daughter of Tommy Bilotti, or the daughter to that claim that their father was whacked while this guy is?
I don't wish death on anyone. I don't wish bad on anyone. But Tommy Bilotti and Paul Castellano have bodies on their hands that they need to go talk to those families and ask, how did they destroy those families? You know, they're not innocent bystanders. They weren't sanitation workers that got murdered for nothing. They were in that life. They knew what life they were in. They both were responsible and involved in homicides. And, you know, that's the life they chose. Like, you know, they knew what the risks were, and they knew that there was a risk one day they weren't coming home. Just like a cop goes to work. And I mean, I'm not comparing a cop getting killed to a gangster getting killed, but we go to work. You could be in the quietest precinct in the world. There's a chance you could die. And you take the job and you take an oath to defend the Constitution, foreign and domestic. You got to keep that oath. You know that there's a slight chance that you may not come home tomorrow night. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying the cop is a hero. The cop is a hero, but in his brain, he knew, just like all three of us did when we went to work. You took a door down. You didn't know by chance someone was going to be there with a shotgun and blow your brains out. You know what I mean?
There was a point that
the work that we are involved in, and that's the occupation, the work that they were involved in. We were the good guys, though. They were the bad guys.
Yeah, there was a point that Sammy made, and I think it kind of fits into what you're talking about right now, Tommy. When he was talking about if there was a guy that was either made or associated, he knew what the rules are. So when he broke the rule and he knew, like, for instance, I'll just throw one out there. You can't hit a made guy. So if you hit a made guy, it's a death sentence, basically. And I think that he was making the point that, listen, I know that the families might feel the way they feel, but the guy broke the rule and he knew what the rules were and he knew what the penalty was going to be. So that's almost like justifying it, I guess, in a way, but it really does make sense, you know?
Michael Dowd was a